All right, recording is started, and this is the September 22nd Crossplane Community Meeting. The agenda doc is open for everybody to join in, and I will drop into the chat a direct link to the agenda doc so you can follow along and add any topics that you want to discuss. The agenda is open for everybody to be adding things or suggesting things, so we'll be happy to get into any topic you all want to look at. So let's start first with our recent our milestone checkup. So first of all, we did a series of patch releases, and it looks like Dan is on the call who ran those. So let's have Dan give us an update on the specific functionality there.
Cool, thanks, Jared. So there was 2 or 3 kind of like big bug fixes, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But the 3 that kind of stuck out for all of these is one. We needed secret deletion permissions on the Crossplane service account. That was part of the secret store implementation. So that's enabled for all these branches. Another one was something contributed by, let me see if I can actually find the person's name because I want to give him a shout out. Rayao, it looks like, that does retries with gets if a head request fails when checking the digest of packages, which is required for installation. Some registries don't support getting the digest via head request, which is kind of like a legacy Docker distribution thing. So that's updated, and that I think Quay.io, or however you say that, I don't think anyone really knows, is the key registry where that was breaking. So that was nice to get in. And then the last one here fixes a race condition, and we're moving to having revisions just remove themselves specifically from the lock in a dependency situation. And that avoids the case where they were previously using their source. So it would look and say, hey, I'm Crossplane provider AWS, and I'll just remove that. And it led to revisions kind of fighting over the lock when you're installing new ones. So that was most of everything. There was also some docs fixes that you can see here in the release notes that were great to get in as well.
Awesome, Dan. Thanks for giving us the update and some of the details about those fixes. And thanks, of course, as well to all the contributors that were putting in fixes and getting improvements in as well. Everything that goes into this series of patch releases, so 1.9.1, 1.8.2, and 1.7.3, obviously will also be included in the upcoming 1.10 release. So speaking of 1.10, the release date is coming up just under a month from now and just before KubeCon in Detroit. So October 18th is the planned release date there along our normal or typical cadence, and nothing has changed from that. So there's a number of things that are in progress and going on in the 1.10 release. There's a fair amount of activity going on. So I think maybe some of the biggest ones to highlight, I think that have a lot of activity going on right now. Oh, I can't move this thing. No, okay. One is that Max has been continuing to push on the implementation for being able to take configuration information from the environment and then patch it into your compositions. The design was approved and finalized, and the implementation PR is still outstanding. So I think that it largely is in good shape, but I think a reviewer doing a full pass before Nick then gives a final approval I think is where we stand now. So I am definitely wanting to get that into 1.10. I know a number of people are looking forward to that functionality. So I definitely want us to drive to get that in for 1.10. The other, another PR or area of focus that has a lot going on and a lot of activity right now is being driven by Bob, and then Max is contributing as well, I believe, for supporting foreground cascading deletion. Bob, I think you're on the call. Do you want to give us an update on, because I know there's a couple PRs, there's like some in Crossplane runtime. I think there's a draft one in upstream or in the Crossplane core. Do you want to give us a consolidated summary of what's the latest there?
Yeah, so Nick has been spending some time on the subject. I've chatted with him on Slack, haven't had an opportunity to talk to him in person, or he hasn't needed to, which is fine too. I guess there's some question right now in terms of what the solution should be. I think this topic has ended up being much larger and much more complex in terms of the scope than initially initially thought. From some perspective, it's actually fairly simple, but from another, when you kind of take a step back and look at the larger picture, you start asking more questions. So, I mean, I think the changes that I have in the PRs that Nick is looking at will solve the problems as they're initially described, meaning that they would allow for foreground cascading deletion. And the question then becomes, is this the direction we want to go? And I think, I tend to try to look at things from as simple a perspective as possible, just because I have enough complexity in my life. And so I try to drive complexity out whenever I can. And so I'm looking at this from the perspective of a Kubernetes user who wants Crossplane Kubernetes resources to behave the same way that native Kubernetes resources behave. Meaning that if I put a finalizer on a config map in Crossplane, I know that config map is not going to go anywhere until I remove that finalizer. And so if I put a finalizer on a composite resource in Crossplane, my, again, user perspective expectation would be that none of the resources associated with that composite would go anywhere until I remove that finalizer. And maybe that's overly simplistic, but that's kind of just the viewpoint that I've been taking. And so Nick's kind of, looking at the situation and trying to understand all the different perspectives. He's been looking at a proposed feature called liens, which is kind of similar, but kind of different. And so there's some discussion around that. I'm not sure this is going to make 1.10. It's going to kill me if it doesn't make 1.10, because we really, really, really need this capability in terms of resource dependency management and not orphaning resources. But I want the right solution. I don't want to push for something that's not the right solution. So I'm happy to work with Nick and whoever else, to drive this to whatever the correct solution is.
Yeah, thank you for that ongoing effort, Bob, to drive to a high quality, thorough and reliable solution for what is not a trivial scenario at all, especially as you get into the depths of it. So thank you for that continued effort. Awesome. So then, and then Bob, is there one thing that I was getting a little confused in my mind about was because there are a number of discussions in a few different places. There's some related issues. There's maybe a couple of different PRs. Does it make sense from within this PR here to have like a related issues section or direct links to all the related PRs for it? So we kind of have this as a landing spot and then we can just easily navigate to everything that's associated with it going on. Does that make sense, or are they kind of like different things?
No, that's a good idea. They all do reference this PR, indirectly, meaning there are mentions in there, but I think tying them together into one specific section that says, here's what the related PRs are, and I've kind of tried to make it, small pieces, right? So that, because my impression was that if I try to tackle the entire thing at once, it's just so complicated that it's really hard to explain to somebody, never mind, actually understanding it. So, there's the Crossplane runtime piece, like you mentioned, that has two major functionalities in it. One is just setting the block owner deletion field on the controller owner references. And then the other one is having the reconciler basically not, requeue when it sees outside finalizers. And then there's a Crossplane equivalent to that, which is essentially the same thing on the composite and the claim reconcilers. Where a lot of the complexity comes in is due to the fact that the composite is cluster scoped and the claim is not. So there's no owner reference between the composite and the claim. And so Crossplane actually manages the deletion of the composite when the claim gets deleted. It's just, like I said, we could do an hour on this, and it's just, the complexity is just over the top. So I will add that section to that. That's a good idea.
Perfect, Bob. Perfect, Bob. Yeah, and I think that is a good approach there to do things in, manageable pieces, so it's easier to understand and parse and really anticipate the impact, but then also limiting blast radius for potential regressions as
Exactly.
well. Yep. It's a good approach. Yeah. So thanks for kind of getting those organized into that top level issue there, so we can easily track things. I think GitLab, wow, GitHub does a good job of like linking mentions, but they're like in the comment stream, so you kind of have to search for them, but kind of consolidating them at the top would be very useful. So thanks for doing that.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's most everything, the big stuff going on for 1.10. Is there anything else that folks want to bring up to discuss in the context of the upcoming 1.10 release?
I guess I could mention something that went in. Well, actually, it looks like it's under community topics already.
Yeah, I put it down there, Dan, because I thought that might be worth mentioning to folks. So yeah, we'll save that one there for that spot in the agenda. Okay, so then let's move on to the provider section as well. Looks like there is an upcoming release. I think 32 is not out yet, right? This is the tracking issue for it. Yeah, so Christopher, you want to catch us up on the upcoming AWS release?
Can you open the next link I added, because
yes.
I'm holding the release at the moment a little bit back because of this issue. There's a fix for S3 notifications. The problem here is that we deprecate notification API group in the past, and S3 notification looks only to the notification group and not to the SNS, so the new introduced group. And from my point of view, it is safe to introduce such changes, but I want to have one more maintainers in the approval phase. It will not break anything for current users using the S3 notifications, because the selectors and referencers are searching for notification. Everything is in place for the notification API if you change this. But for all the future users, they want to use SNS for S3 buckets. We can fix this, but would be better if someone else can have a look on it. So like Murfak or Carl, that we can bring it in because of the deprecation things for notification API.
Got it. And then this is blocking the release then as well.
Yeah, so we found the same on our side, I guess 2 weeks ago, and there was also one thing in the community, and we had a discussion. I guess Manabu is also on the call. He was on it in the discussion. So it would be great to have it also in the next release. So it would be cool if I tagged Carl and Murfak. I guess Murfak is on vacation. So let's see if
he just got back like a day or two ago. So he's unburying himself right now, but starting to get back on top of stuff. Do you want to add a note here then too, Christopher, that like explicitly that this is blocking the release?
Yeah, okay, I will. I will add this, and
awesome.
We have if we have problems with this, we can cut the release. Otherwise, it would be great to bring it in.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. And then there's also an upcoming provider GCP release. I think, Gabriel, you were adding this to the agenda doc. Do you want to go ahead and get us updated on this as well?
Yeah, so I saw the last release on provider GCP was in March, and there was some commits going on there. And I was trying to have a new release, and there's 5 PRs open in the repository, and I am reviewing 2 of them because other 3 I opened, so I can't like review myself. So I am asking for a review for anyone that can help me. And then when I merge these 5 PRs, we can release the 22 release.
Awesome, Gabriel. Thanks for bringing that up and taking an inventory on the PRs that are outstanding there. Let me try to ping a couple folks of their maintainers. I think there's a couple that are on the call here, but let me try to ping a couple other folks that are maintainers for that as well, to see if we can get some traction so we can get to cut the release out.
Thank you.
Yeah, just sending a Slack note real quick. I'll come back in 2 seconds. All right. Okay, and then there was also the GCP, the jet provider GCP just got a recent release as well. Gabriel, did you add that as well? Or I think Muapic ran the release, so maybe he added it.
No, it wasn't me. I don't know who
Oh, okay.
added.
Yeah, that might have been Muafiq, but yeah, so a new release has been cut for the Jet GCP provider, and then you know, we can see the release notes here, a number of new resources that were added and new functionality. Cool. Looks like a few new contributors as well also, so that's really cool to see too. 5 new contributors. Great. Okay, anything else on the providers topic that folks want to bring up before we move on to the remaining items in the agenda?
I have one more topic. So regarding the Jet AWS provider, so it would be great to also see a new release and merging a few things there, because there are a lot of open merge requests, and would be great if there some guys can review the things and bring it in and cut a new release, because it's, I guess, more than 1 month ago that we cut a new release there. It's 2 months at the moment.
Chris, would you have some specific PRs that are high priority there?
Yeah, so in our company, we're using, for example, so we bumped the provided Jet AWS to a new Terraform version, because we are using very heavily Grafana and managed Prometheus from AWS. And we implemented this with one PR. And also we start using network firewalling in AWS, and we also implemented this in the Jet providers. So it would be cool if we can see a review of the merge requests and a new release of it, because at the moment we're running an, I would say, release candidate, cut it for our own, but would be better to in sync with the official ones we have in the communities.
Do you want to drop a couple links to those PRs?
Yeah,
right here in the agenda doc, and then we can follow up from there.
This would be great. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, then we can move on to the community topics section here as well. So I wanted to call out a couple interesting pieces of content that has been authored around the community and ecosystem. Pete, you're on the call, and you did just a series of 2 different blog posts here going back to back. Do you just want to give us a quick overview of what was in those blog posts, and so people can read the details later on?
Yeah, I'm coming into this as kind of a Kubernetes Crossplane noob, and this is a little bit of my view on the value for somebody who kind of lacks that expertise to say like, oh, hey, Kubernetes does all this cool stuff, but it still leaves this huge gap with cloud services. And so understanding that, you can easily see where Crossplane fits in and the value Crossplane provides. So really trying to give an overview of the problem space and how we're a solution.
Awesome, Pete. I think that's really good too, that it's taking that angle of being an accessible entry into the space. I think that's something that can be forgotten sometimes. So having your spin on that is really, really helpful. Thank you. Cool. And then Sean Kane wrote a somewhat detailed case study about using Crossplane and his thoughts on it. So definitely worth a read as well. Some good opinions in there, and some well thought out stuff, and some good feedback too. So this is a useful article from Sean. All right. Yep. So KubeCon North America is coming up in about a month from now. There's this link has been here in the agenda doc for a bit, so you can click on that and you can see all the talks that are referencing Crossplane or about Crossplane. So feel free to jump into those and join us there. And hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of your friendly faces there in person. I wanted to get an update from Alper, who I don't think was able to make the call today because he was starting to investigate and dive into some of the results from the CNCF's fuzz testing. So I guess I'll follow up with him about if there's any fruits that have come out of his investigations into those bugs yet. I haven't heard anything explicitly, so there might not be, but I wanted to check with him, and I'll follow up with him then. All right, then, Pete, this is your big topic here about migrating the Crossplane.io website and docs and everything like that. So let us know some details about this topic, sir.
Yeah, so first off, the commit here doesn't change anything on the UI. The goal was, nobody notices. So coming back to justification, today we're building with Jekyll, which is fine. It has a pretty large dependency collection and leads to pretty slow local development experience and local authoring experience. So, non-scientific, non-thorough benchmarking, 3 to 5 minutes to build the site on my MacBook here. The big reason to move to Hugo was speed. Hugo's build times. So first off, Hugo is a single standalone binary. And its build times are sub-second for most pages until you get pretty large. But it's also all Go based. So it makes kind of the tooling and the thinking about things a little bit more in line with, Kubernetes and Crossplane in that sense. It also aligns us with the upstream Kubernetes documentation, which is also based on Hugo. So that's kind of the big reason why I was interested in this. And it's also, you'll be seeing myself making pretty big push into the Crossplane documentation between now and KubeCon and beyond, but really looking at trying to get a lot done to enhance, improve, simplify, and expand the existing Crossplane documentation. I think moving to Hugo will just make that process a lot easier and a lot faster.
Nice, Pete. I definitely like the angle here of being able to more quickly add content or features, or being able to have some agility with our development on here and investment on it, especially now that we have a solid technical documentation, technical writer such as yourself, where that speed might actually be utilized. So good stuff, man. Yeah, thanks for taking this taking this functionality on. What is the next steps for this, Pete? Because I know I didn't look at the code because I don't have a good understanding of the technical stuff to actually understand and approve it. But I did, from a user perspective, went through the site and checked for things and clicked on things and was analyzing it, and it does look to meet that goal of parity. So what are the next steps for this?
If we're ready to merge it, I think the only other thing will be a secondary thing around the build process and the Crossplane repo. Part of the Crossplane make file pushes the docs, and so we'll have to make some small modifications there. I'll take care of that, but just as an FYI. But that's basically it.
Is there a dependency there, Pete? Can we merge this and then we have to synchronize the update to Crossplane to do publish in the docs, or are there not a tight coupling like that, or?
So they are tightly coupled today. My guess is I didn't look at the script close enough to know. My guess is that the attempted merge from the Crossplane source repo would either fail or it would just commit docs that don't do anything. Like you're just adding a file that isn't referenced anywhere else, so it doesn't matter. So I don't expect a breakage there, but it's kind of like merge this in, fix the make file kind of at the same time.
Got it. Okay, sweet. So we'd probably want to have like a PR opened that, you know, what is what we think the fix is, and so that we can, you know, merge and then merge the docs, the upstream crossplane fix, and then if that doesn't work, we can iterate over it. But yeah, at least have both PRs open at the same time so we can kind of review them in tandem.
Yeah, and the upstream makefile, there's no like downside. Like we don't have to do those within seconds. That makefile gets triggered on, I believe it's a release of Crossplane. There might be a time-based element in there, but you know,
I would imagine
we have some control over that makefile running.
I would imagine that it gets executed as well for every commit that or PR that gets merged to master as well, because those might have new docs, and then that'll update like the master version of docs.
And that might be what it is, but whatever it is, it's you know, we have the ability to be like, okay, well, we're just not going to merge for the next 20 minutes while we
got it. Yeah. It's not totally out of our hands.
Yep.
Awesome, Pete. Okay, cool, man. Thanks for thinking through this this stuff here. Yeah, then I'm super excited also to be able to add new functionality, such as like linking to things that are within tabs within our docs. That would be
definitely have a bunch of work that I can bring in now. I was trying not to. My goal was really, you know, net zero. And with this approved, definitely got some stuff we can bring in on code highlighting, linking to line numbers in code blocks, linking to tabs, kind of all that stuff. I think there's a ton of potential coming that we'll get over time.
Nice, a real docs engineer here. This is nice. The community benefits from your skill set, my friend. Love it. All right, great. So then, Dan, do you want to catch us up on this this PR that went into main recently and will be included in 1.10?
Sure. So I think this is something we wanted to do for quite a while. But just honestly, as the provider ecosystem and actually configuration package ecosystem has continued to evolve, it's become more critical. So as a lot of folks know, if you have a dependent, you can declare dependencies, I guess I should say first, in your packages that basically say, hey, when you install me, I also rely on these other packages, you know, similar to most package managers. You can set version constraints, and Crossplane will basically construct a DAG and resolve that for you to make sure you have everything present. And if it's not present, depending on how you've configured it, you can have it install them for you automatically. Now, when Crossplane goes about doing that, it only has limited information about, you know, what secrets you want it to be able to use and that sort of thing. So what this change does is it allows you to attach package pull secrets to the Crossplane service account, and that will automatically be considered whenever you're doing any package operations. So whether you're installing a single private package and you just don't want to have to specify package pull secrets on install, which is a little more cumbersome and can get in the way of documentation, that sort of thing. Or you're installing a package that has private dependencies, which previously was just impossible. You had to say, don't resolve my dependencies, I'll bring them along myself and provide the package pull secrets. Those pull secrets will get applied all the way down the chain. And so I think this will help enable a lot more use cases. And will especially be, you know, useful for folks who are using this internally in their organizations to install private packages. So it'll be really useful. Last thing I'll mention is the pull secret is also applied to the deployment that gets created for the provider, or rather the service account that the deployment uses that gets created for the provider. And that means that now that we use the bundled provider images,
Dan, I lost you.
In Crossplane. Oh, am I still here?
Yeah, oh, you're back now. Yeah, I think the last thing I heard was something like, now we use bundled images.
Oh, okay. ... Yeah, I was just mentioning that now that we're using bundled package images or bundled provider images, obviously it's that same private image, right? So you need to be able to give permissions to the deployment to be able to pull as well. Last thing that folks had some questions around was if I actually do manually supply pull secrets for installing a package and it has dependencies, will those also get propagated down the chain? We decided to decouple that from this implementation because attaching them to the service account does unlock this. The use case where you'd want to use it on a single package and its dependencies would be if you didn't want to share secrets between. Most of the time, people are okay with using same set of secrets for pulling packages because that's already kind of an administrator level task. But we may in the future, depending on demand, and please feel free to show support for this if you need it. Say that all of the dependents of a given package, when it's getting resolved to by Crossplane, will actually fetch all of those pull secrets and apply them to that package as well. But something that's a little more cumbersome and wasn't required to initially enable this, so we decided to leave that off. But this will be in 1.10. Should be useful for folks.
Great, Dan. Great. Quick question for you: Is there an addition or a slight update to the documentation around package pull secrets that should get updated to note this behavior as well?
Yep, absolutely, and that should be coming hopefully today. But I did just have something pop up, so might be tomorrow, but it will definitely be in by 1.10.
Awesome, great, Dan. I expected no less from you, my friend. All right, sounds good. Okay, and then next thing on the agenda is so Christopher, you had brought this up last community meeting and about adding Max as a maintainer to Provider AWS, and then we made a little call out to other maintainers for in AWS, and there was some more support there. So it's up to 5 maintainers now, which I think is very, very valid support for the maintainer team that says that they would love Max to be there as well. So is there anything? Oh, so you already added him to the owner's file up to wait, that was during this meeting, Christopher.
Thanks to Dan to approve it, so we merged it, and
sneaky.
I guess the next thing is up to you to add him in the repository.
Awesome. Yep, we'll make sure then that Max gets the permissions. Then that sounds great. That's awesome. Is during
Just
this
in
meeting?
time.
Talk about a live agenda. I love it. Okay, so then that was everything that was part of the written agenda here. Is there anything that folks want to bring up that did not make it to the doc yet? Okay. All right, then if there's nothing else, then we'll go ahead and adjourn and get 20 minutes back. But yep, good to see everybody, and looking forward to all the great stuff that's in 1.10 release and all the other provider releases that are coming out soon.
Thanks, guys.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.